Hello, in this video we will see about the layers of anterior abdominal wall. So this is the anterior abdominal wall, this is the right side, this is left side. As here we can see thoracic cage, this is the upper side and this is a lower side. Now before we discuss the layers of anterior abdominal wall, first we'll see the boundaries. So anterior abdominal wall is bounded above by xiphisternum along with right and left costal margins, each of which is formed by 7th, 8th, 9th and 10th costal cartilages. Below it is formed by anterior part of iliac crest, then fold of groin, pubic tubercle, pubic crest and pubic symphysis. And on each side, anterior abdominal wall is separated from posterior abdominal wall by downward prolongation of mid-axillary line. Now coming to the layers, anterior abdominal wall shows 8 layers. From superficial to deep, these layers are skin, superficial fascia, external oblique muscle with its aponeurosis, internal oblique muscle with its aponeurosis, transversus abdominis muscle with its aponeurosis, then fascia transversalis, extraperitoneal connective tissue and parietal peritoneum. Now coming to the layers in detail. The first layer is skin. Skin, it shows the important structure called as umbilicus, which is a normal scar present along a midline of anterior abdominal wall at the level of disc between L3 and L4 in healthy thin individuals. The level of umbilicus is slightly low in old people because of loss of tone of abdominal muscles, and in children also it lies at lower level because the pelvis is not fully developed. Then another special feature about the skin is skin can be stretched due to various conditions like fat, fluid, fetus, flatus, feces or fetal growths like malignancy, etc. The next layer is superficial fascia. So after reflecting skin, this fat-laden layer that we see is the superficial fascia. Superficial fascia above the level of anterior superior iliac spines, it is present in the form of single layer, and below this level it shows two layers, outer fatty layer called as fascia of Camphor and inner membranous layer called as fascia of Scarpa. So here if we see in the lower part, this is a outer fatty layer or fascia of Camphor and inner membranous layer. So we can here identify this is inner membranous layer called as fascia of Scarpa. Similar layer is observed here. This is a fascia of Scarpa, that is inner membranous layer. The space which is present between this Scarpa's fascia and this is external oblique aponeurosis. This space is called as superficial inguinal space. Now this membranous layer or Scarpa's fascia, it is over the pubic crest, it is continuous with the fascia of penis. Here you can see it is continuous with the fascia of penis, then dartos muscle of scrotum, and still behind it is continuous with the collis fascia of perineum. And here over the inguinal ligament, the membranous layer, it is adherent to the fascia lata, that is deep fascia of thigh along a Holden's line. So Holden's line, it extends from pubic tubercle laterally for 8 centimeters. So here the membranous layer is adherent with the fascia lata, that is deep fascia of a thigh. Now clinical importance of this layer is whenever there is rupture of membranous urethra in males, the urine extravasates into the superficial perineal pouch and then it spreads to the scrotum deep to the fascia of penis, and then it comes to this superficial inguinal space, which is present between this membranous layer. We can see here, this is a membranous layer and the external oblique aponeurosis, and from here it can spread upwards up to the axilla, but it will not spread downwards into the thigh because of attachment of this membranous layer to the fascia lata along the Holden's line. So this is about superficial fascia. Now the next is external oblique muscle with its aponeurosis. So external oblique muscle, internal oblique and transversus abdominis, these are the three flat muscles of abdomen, and these muscles are fleshy in the posterolateral part, and once they pass anteromedially they become aponeurotic. So this white part is the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle, and here we can see the fleshy part, we can see the muscle fibers. So this muscle is external oblique muscle. Now which things we have to remember about external oblique? First is direction of muscle fibers. The fibers are directed downwards, forwards and medially, as if we insert our hands in our pockets. So that is first thing. Second special feature about the external oblique muscle is this muscle, aponeurosis of this muscle, it continues towards midline. So it forms the anterior wall of the rectus sheath. And posterior fibers, they will form boundary of lumbar triangle of Pettit along with latissimus dorsi that we have seen during the dissection of back. Now below, the external oblique aponeurosis, it shows a triangular opening called as superficial inguinal ring. So this is a superficial inguinal ring, which is a triangular gap present in the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. So same I'll show you here. So here I am inserting the finger in the superficial inguinal ring. Okay, and the superficial inguinal ring, it transmits the spermatic cord and ilioinguinal nerve in males and round ligament of uterus along with ilioinguinal nerve in females. So this is the ilioinguinal nerve, and here we can see that from this superficial inguinal ring, we can see a fascia which is continuous over the spermatic cord. So this is external spermatic fascia. So external oblique aponeurosis, it shows a triangular gap called a superficial inguinal ring, and from here it continues as tubular prolongation over the spermatic cord called as external spermatic fascia. So external spermatic fascia is derived from aponeurosis of external oblique muscle. Now the next feature is the lower border of external oblique aponeurosis is thickened and folded on itself to form inguinal ligament. So this is an inguinal ligament. I'll show you how it is folded backwards on itself. So here we can see the shiny fibers of inguinal ligament. Inguinal ligament, laterally it is attached to the anterior superior iliac spine, and medially, here we can see, I'll retract the spermatic cord over here, you can see it is attached to the pubic tubercle. So this is an inguinal ligament. Now inguinal ligament, below it provides attachment to the fascia lata. So here we can see this is a fascia lata or deep fascia of a thigh, and which exerts traction, and therefore the inguinal ligament is convex downwards. Also here we can see it provides origin to the internal oblique, and deep to that also there will be origin of transversus abdominis in its lateral part. Now coming to the next muscle, that is internal oblique muscle. So this is an internal oblique muscle. If we see the direction of internal oblique, the fibers are directed upwards, forwards and medially at right angles to those of external oblique muscle. This muscle also forms aponeurosis in anterior part, and it contributes to the formation of rectus sheath. The next muscle is transversus abdominis muscle. So this muscle is the transversus abdominis muscle. The direction of fibers of transversus abdominis, the fibers are directed transversely. Transversus abdominis also becomes aponeurotic in anterior part and it contributes to form posterior wall of the rectus sheath. And the next important point, neurovascular bundle. It lies between internal oblique and transversus abdominis. So here we can see the nerves. Here I'll show you the nerves. This is the nerve. This is one more nerve is seen. Okay, so the neurovascular structures, they lie between internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscle. The skin of anterior abdominal wall is supplied by anterior primary rami of lower 6 thoracic nerves and first lumbar nerve. The lower 6 thoracic nerves, initially they lie in a neurovascular plane that lies between internal oblique and transversus abdominis, and from here they pass or enter into the rectus sheath. Then L1 nerve gives two branches which initially lie in the same neurovascular plane. These branches are iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal. So, iliohypogastric and ilioinguinal nerve, both these nerves pierce internal oblique muscle. So, this is a iliohypogastric nerve. It pierces internal oblique muscle 2.5 centimeter medial to the anterior superior iliac spine. Then it passes forwards and medially. Then it pierces the aponeurosis of external oblique muscle and it supplies the lower part of skin of abdomen just above the pubic symphysis. So this is a iliohypogastric nerve. And below and parallel to that we will get ilioinguinal nerve. So this ilioinguinal nerve, it after piercing internal oblique, it enters into the inguinal canal. So this is a inguinal canal. And here the nerve is accompanied by spermatic cord in males or round ligament of uterus in females. Now the nerve emerges through superficial inguinal ring along with spermatic cord or round ligament of uterus. And after emerging from superficial inguinal ring, the nerve supplies skin of external genitalia and upper part of medial side of thigh. So remember that both these nerves, they are muscular before they pierce the internal oblique muscle. So they supply the internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscle before they pierce internal oblique. And after that they become cutaneous and they supply the skin. Now another important point here we have to remember that both internal oblique and transversus abdominis, they arise from lateral part of the inguinal ligament. Okay, so the inguinal fibers of both these muscles, they arch backwards to form roof of inguinal canal. So this is a inguinal canal and they form the roof of inguinal canal, and then they pass downwards and backwards to form conjoint tendon. So this is the conjoint tendon. Conjoint tendon is contributed or formed by internal oblique and transversus abdominis. 2/3 part is contributed by transversus abdominis and 1/3 part by the internal oblique aponeurosis. This conjoint tendon, it forms medial part of posterior wall of the inguinal canal, and medial it is continuous with the anterior wall of the rectus sheath. Okay, so importance of this conjoint tendon is this lies behind the superficial inguinal ring. So here we can see this is a superficial inguinal ring and conjoint tendon lies behind the superficial inguinal ring. So it protects the ring from behind and prevents herniation. Now the next layer is fascia transversalis. So I'll reflect this internal oblique and transversus abdominis muscle. Then we will see fascia transversalis. So fascia transversalis is the thin fascia that covers inner aspect of the transversus abdominis muscle. So this fascia is the fascia transversalis. And this fascia transversalis, it is separated from parietal peritoneum. So I'll show you the parietal peritoneum. So this is a parietal peritoneum, and both these layers are separated by extraperitoneal connective tissue, which is a loose connective tissue, and that's why we can separate both these layers. Okay, we can separate both these layers from each other like this. Now I'll show you the parietal peritoneum from inner aspect. So parietal peritoneum is the innermost layer of the anterior abdominal wall. So this layer is the parietal peritoneum. Now we'll see about the fascia transversalis. Fascia transversalis, it shows an oval opening 1.25 centimeter above the mid-inguinal point, and that is called as deep inguinal ring. The position of deep inguinal ring 1.25 centimeter above the mid-inguinal point. And from inner aspect we can see like this. So this is a parietal peritoneum, and when we reflect this we can see the fascia transversalis, and opening in the fascia transversalis, that is a deep inguinal ring. So this is a ring of right side. We can see different structures of spermatic cord, they are entering into the inguinal canal through this ring. So this is the deep inguinal ring. Similarly we can see here also, this is a deep inguinal ring. The deep inguinal ring transmits spermatic cord in males and round ligament of uterus in females. And from deep inguinal ring, fascia transversalis continues over the spermatic cord as internal spermatic fascia. One more thing about the fascia transversalis is it passes behind the inguinal ligament into the thigh, and it forms anterior wall of femoral sheath. So here we can see femoral vessels, femoral artery and femoral vein, and over this is a part of fascia lata and inguinal ligament. So deep to that we can see this is a anterior wall of the femoral sheath. Okay, here. So this layer is the anterior wall of the femoral sheath. For showing the structures, some part of this sheath is dissected, but we can see the anterior wall of the femoral sheath. It is formed by fascia transversalis. The next part is extraperitoneal connective tissue and parietal peritoneum. So this is a parietal peritoneum. Parietal peritoneum above the level of umbilicus. Above the level of umbilicus, it shows a fold. So this is called a peritoneal fold, called as a falciform ligament. This falciform ligament is a bilaminar fold of peritoneum which extends from liver to the anterior abdominal wall. So here this is a liver, this is a right lobe and left lobe, and between these two lobes there is a falciform ligament, and as we have cut here part of it we can see here. So this is a falciform ligament, and the lower free margin of falciform ligament contains the ligamentum teres hepatis. Ligamentum teres hepatis represents the remnant of left umbilical vein. In lower part, the parietal peritoneum, it shows again 5 folds, and these 5 folds we'll see in another video. Thank you.